Leonor's choice that could rewrite history. The room is quiet. Morning light moves slowly across stone walls that have witnessed centuries of oaths, abdications, silences, and survival. A single figure stands still, framed by history rather than decoration. The future is present here, but it does not announce itself. She is Princess Leonor of Spain, Her Royal Highness Princess Leonor de Borbón y Ortiz. Heir to a crown that no longer rules, yet still anchors a nation. A crown that survives not through command, but through continuity. For Princess Leonor of Spain, choice is never personal. It is constitutional, and once made, history cannot undo it. Spain is a country shaped by fracture and repair. Empires lost, republics declared, monarchies restored, not by force, but by necessity. What remains is an agreement, fragile and precise, between the state and the symbol that represents it. The crown does not govern, but it stabilizes. It absorbs pressure so the system does not collapse inward. This is the living thread of continuity. Leonor did not inherit power in the traditional sense. She inherited responsibility, encoded in law, rehearsed in ritual, and enforced by expectation. Every public appearance is a signal. Every absence is interpreted. Every future decision already has consequences attached to it. At 17, she swore allegiance to the Constitution. Not as a formality, as a binding act. In that moment, Spain was not watching a daughter promise her father. It was watching the institution prepare its next custodian. And yet, beneath the choreography, something more complex is unfolding. Because succession today is not only about bloodlines. It is about legitimacy in a century that distrusts permanence. By the second minute, the assumption most people carry begins to fracture. That the monarchy's greatest risk is popularity. It is not. Its greatest risk is choice. The Spanish Constitution allows the crown to endure, but only if it remains predictable. Neutral, uncontroversial, that is the paradox Leonor inherits. She must be visible, yet restrained. Modern, yet immovable. Human enough to be relatable. Institutional enough to be untouchable. Every path forward narrows the moment it is chosen. From Washington, the question is stability. The United States does not romanticize crowns, but it values continuity in allies. An uncertain monarchy is not a cultural issue. It is a strategic one. From London, the calculus is more intimate. The United Kingdom understands something Spain does not need explained. That a monarch's private decisions quietly shape the public future for decades. Canada and Australia watch differently. As constitutional monarchies themselves, they read Spain's choices as signals. Not of tradition, but of adaptability. Of whether old institutions can still negotiate modern pressure without rupture. Germany watches with historical memory. With an understanding of what happens when symbolic systems fail and leave vacuum behind. By the 5th minute, the words return. Not because of scandal, not because of rebellion, but because of timing. Leonor is coming of age in a compressed era. What once unfolded over decades now accelerates in months. The margin for error has collapsed. There are expectations that remain deliberately unspoken. Expectations about alliance, about marriage, about how continuity is embodied, not declared. This is where silence becomes policy. The crown does not comment on hypotheticals. But institutions plan for them relentlessly. What happens if personal alignment clashes with constitutional expectation? What happens if the future queen's definition of duty diverges from the system designed to contain it? At minute 8, the deeper mystery emerges. Not what Leonor will do, but what has already been decided without being said. Because monarchies survive by pre-negotiation. By quiet consensus long before public acknowledgement. Every carefully limited interview, every educational choice, every controlled absence from certain conversations. These are not coincidences. They are containment. Continuity is not abstract here, it is embodied in visible presence. And absence, too. By the 10th minute, pressure accumulates. Not publicly, institutionally. Spain is more plural than it has ever been. More regionally assertive, more skeptical of inherited authority. The crown's role is to remain above this fragmentation. But only if it does not appear out of touch with it. That balance is nearing its limit. This is the midpoint where strain becomes perceptible. Where systems that once absorbed tension begin to creak. Not loudly, yet. By minute 14, the point of no return approaches, not as an event, but as a narrowing corridor. Certain choices, once delayed, become choices by default. Others, once made, cannot be reversed without consequence. A future queen does not choose freely. She chooses last, after law, tradition, expectation, and international optics have already spoken. This is where history stops being something studied and becomes something waiting. From abroad, analysts do not ask whether Leonor is prepared. They ask whether the institution she inherits is still elastic enough to survive her era. Because crowns do not fall when heirs fail. They fall when systems refuse to adapt in time. At minute 19, a shadow forms, not a threat, but a possibility. A Spain where continuity fractures quietly. Where the symbol no longer binds because it hesitated too long, or moved too quickly. A future where the crown remains, but its gravity weakens. No crisis announcement, no rupture on the evening news. Just gradual irrelevance. And then, at the final threshold, the words return once more. Not because of what Princess Leonor has done, but because of what she has not yet been allowed to decide. She stands at the edge of an inheritance that cannot pause for certainty. Only for resolve. The institution waits. The nation watches. The world measures. And somewhere between duty and inevitability, the future remains unwritten. The silence continues. Not the absence of sound, but the deliberate quiet of institutions deciding what may be spoken, and what must remain deferred. Spain has lived through moments when silence collapsed into rupture. It remembers 1931. It remembers 1975. And it remembers the fragile reconstruction that followed, when continuity was not assumed, but engineered. This is why the crown does not improvise. For Princess Leonor of Spain, every future step has already been rehearsed in theory, debated in private, and weighed against outcomes that may not surface for decades. The monarchy's power is not command. It is timing. To act too soon is to provoke resistance. To act too late is to confirm irrelevance. Spain's constitution was written with memory, not optimism. It anticipates instability. It tolerates monarchy only as long as monarchy behaves as structure, not ambition. That is why the most consequential choices are framed as inevitabilities, not decisions. Education abroad, military formation, controlled exposure to global institutions. Each is presented as preparation. Each is also calibration. From the outside, this appears ceremonial. From the inside, it is filtration, removing variables before they become crises. In the United Kingdom, this process is familiar. There, monarchy survives by absorbing change so slowly that it appears unchanged. Spain does not have that luxury. Its monarchy was restored, not inherited uninterrupted. That difference matters. Canada and Australia understand this distinction. Intuitively, their relationship to the crown is conditional, legal, and revocable. They watch Spain not with nostalgia, but with analysis. Is this institution flexible enough to survive a successor who must embody modern Spain without fragmenting it? Germany's gaze is colder. It has seen symbols fail. It knows that once legitimacy drains away, it does not return through ceremony. By the midpoint of this second movement, a realization settles in. Leonor's greatest constraint is not public opinion. It is precedent. Every choice made by her predecessors now narrows her future. Every compromise accepted before her arrival limits what can be reimagined. Continuity is inherited, but so are its fractures. The crown must now decide whether stability comes from preservation or from controlled transformation. This is where institutions grow cautious. Because transformation, even controlled, carries risk. Spain is no longer negotiating monarchy versus republic. It is negotiating relevance versus symbolism. The danger is not abolition. The danger is drift. A crown that remains legally intact but psychologically distant. A monarchy that exists without anchoring. This is the scenario planners fear most. Not collapse, but quiet disengagement. At this stage, Leonor becomes less an individual and more a vessel. A visible locus where unresolved tensions gather. Regional identities sharpen, political cycles shorten, public patience thins. And still, the crown must not react. Because reaction is read as weakness. At the institutional level, one question dominates every private briefing. Can continuity still feel inevitable? If the answer is no, then choice becomes unavoidable. And choice is where history accelerates. There are moments, rare, decisive, when monarchies must redefine themselves without admitting that they are doing so. This is one of those moments. The uniforms, the oaths, the controlled appearances. These are not tradition for tradition's sake. They are signals, to Spain, and to the world, that the thread has not broken. Yet threads fray silently. From Washington, the calculus tightens. Allies value predictability. An institution uncertain of its own future becomes a variable. From London, there is recognition, and warning. Monarchy survives only when it understands the cost of waiting too long. The crown can delay choice. It cannot escape it. As this second chapter closes, the tension does not resolve. It deepens. Leonor stands within a system that demands she represent permanence. At a time when permanence itself is under negotiation. No announcement will mark the moment when history tips. No speech will declare it. It will happen quietly, through alignment, or misalignment, between the institution and the era it serves. The crown remains, for now, but continuity, once questioned, must be constantly earned. And the choice that could rewrite history is no longer distant. It is approaching, measured not in years, but in narrowing options.